Buckle up for a whirlwind tour through F1's Hall of Hoops, where the engines roar, the tyres screech, and the drivers, well, they try their best. From comedic pit stops to rules named after awful drivers, we're driving pedal to the metal through the sport's most forgettable faces, who struggle to tell a hairpin from a hairdryer. This is the worst F1 drivers of all time. A stroll through the park? Hardly. In the circus of Formula One, where every driver dreams of champagne showers and podium finishes, Lance Stroll's journey has been, let's say, a bit more pedestrian. Picture this, a wheel nut so stubborn, it turned a routine tyre change into a spectacle reminiscent of a Laurel and Hardy skit. During one fateful practice session in Mexico, Stroll's crew wrestled with a wheel nut that simply refused to budge, forcing them to form a human shield of embarrassment around the car. It's moments like these that have F1 aficionados scratching their heads, wondering if they're watching a motorsport or a comedy of errors. Hailing from the land of maple syrup and ice hockey, Stroll's journey to F1 was turbocharged by his billionaire father's backing, catapulting him into the glitzy realm of motorsport's elite. With a debut that saw him partnering with the seasoned Felipe Massa at Williams, Stroll was like a freshman walking into a room of PhDs. Yet, amidst the tutelage and the trials, he managed to secure a podium finish in Azerbaijan, a feat that made him the second youngest driver to do so during a rookie season. But, as with any tale of highs, there came the inevitable lows. Stroll's tenure in F1 has been a rollercoaster of dizzying spins and heart-stopping crashes. From gearbox penalties in his debut race to an array of retirements that followed, Stroll's journey has been anything but a leisurely stroll in the park. His penchant for finding himself in the thick of on-track melees, including a notable tangle with Sebastian Vettel during a cooldown lap, has provided ample fodder for the F1 rumour mill. And then there was his move to Racing Point, and subsequently Aston Martin, under the charge of his father, sparking debates about pay drivers in F1. Despite the naysayers, Stroll has had his moments in the sun, or rather, in the downpour, showcasing his wet-weather driving skills with a pole position at the 2020 Turkish Grand Prix. Yet, his career has often felt like a game of musical chairs with teammates, leaving the F1 paddock whispering about the Stroll curse, as drivers like Felipe Massa and Sergio Perez made way. Because where some drivers have a knack for finding the apex, Stroll has a knack for finding the barriers. Tomato, tomato. The marvelous Marzi spin. Nikita Mazepin's first dance at the 2021 Bahrain Grand Prix was less of a tango with the tarmac and more of a solitary waltz off the track, all within the first lap, no less. It was a debut that screamed, "Remember me," for all the wrong reasons. With the backing of Daddy Mazepin's billions, Nikita entered the F1 fray only to become the paddock's favourite twirling dervish, often found spinning in places where you'd least expect a pirouette. His inaugural F1 season was peppered with moments that had the potential to be featured in a blooper reel. Take, for instance, the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix qualifying, where Mazepin decided that the gentleman's agreement was more of a gentle suggestion, overtaking a conga line of cars on an outlap and nearly causing a heart-stopping moment with Lando Norris. Off the track, Mazepin's knack for controversy knew no bounds. His F3 days were marked by a scuffle with Callum Ilott, which ended with Ilott looking like he'd gone a few rounds with a particularly angry cat. Then came the Instagram debacle that had the F1 world up in arms, sparking the viral campaign, #WeSayNoToMazepin, as fans and drivers alike demanded more than just a slap on the wrist. Who could come back from that? Apparently, this guy. And then there was Mazepin's rapport with his teammate Mick Schumacher. Their relationship was much more war and peace than brotherly love, with both drivers jostling for supremacy in a chariot that was decidedly more donkey cart than race car. Tensions peaked when Mazepin allegedly decorated Schumacher's qualifying lap at the Dutch Grand Prix with his unique brand of chaos. Finally, the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine war brought Maz's spin saga to an abrupt halt in 2022. Haas decided that the Mazepin-Uralkali partnership was one controversy too many, leaving the Russian on his own to fight sanctions and seek a path back to racing, perhaps in a less spin-prone vehicle. Crash Tour Maldonado. Maldonado's Formula One odyssey with Williams started with a bang, or should we say, a crash, as he navigated the team's worst season with the grace of a bull in a china shop. Despite the bumpy start, Pastor's shining moment came at the 2012 Spanish Grand Prix, where he not only grabbed pole position, but also clinched victory, leaving Alonso and Raikkonen in his wake. It was a win that showcased his undeniable, albeit sporadic, brilliance. But for every moment of glory, there were instances of sheer calamity. Take his 2014 season with Lotus, for instance, where DNFs became as common as podiums were rare. From fuel pump failures in Monaco to power unit woes in Canada and an exhaust issue in Belgium, Maldonado's season was a collection of technical gremlins and racing misfortunes. And let's not mention that time at Monaco when he ignored warning flags and injured a marshal, earning a 4-race ban for his troubles, because every race needs a clown car. Pasta's reputation as the bad boy of F1, as he put it, wasn't just media fabrication. It was a title earned through a series of high-profile clashes and crashes, including a notorious tangle with Hamilton in Belgium and a farcical sprint race at Silverstone that had fans scratching their heads in disbelief. In the end, Maldonado's F1 career was a rollercoaster of highs and lows, marked by a single, shining victory amidst a sea of spins and spectacles. A driver of undeniable talent, whose penchant for drama ensured that his name would be remembered, if not always for the reasons one might hope. Knick-knack, paddywhack. Nyck de Vries, the man who turned karting into an art form and F2 into his personal victory lap, seems set to conquer F1 with the grace of a swan, only to find out the pond was a bit more shark-infested than anticipated. His stint at Williams, where he nabbed a P9 on debut, had everyone tipping their hats. Here comes the next big thing, they said, as AlphaTauri scooped him up for the 2023 season, probably envisioning podiums and champagne showers. But, as with all good soap operas, the plot thickened. De Vries' F1 dream hit a speed bump, or several, with his best showing a modest P12 in the glitzy streets of Monaco. A few racing faux pas later, including a self-sabotage race in Azerbaijan, and our protagonist found himself on thin ice, with Helmut Marko playing the role of the stern headmaster, yellow card in hand. And just like that, Daniel Ricciardo was warming up De Vries' seat before he could say, "But I was just getting started." Amidst his sporting saga, Nyck was caught up in more drama off the track. The Dutchman was being taken to court by a real estate mogul over a €250,000 investment, turning his F1 dreams into a courtroom drama. The dispute? A classic tale of unmet expectations and contractual conundrums, proving that even in the high-speed world of F1, the fine print can be your biggest adversary. As Nyck de Vries waves goodbye to the whirlwind world of F1, he's not one to sit idle, swapping his racing overalls for, well, more racing overalls. But this time in the electrifying arenas of Formula E and the World Endurance Championship. So place your bets. Will he charge to the front and reclaim his spot on the podium, or will he discover that his true calling was actually being a professional bumper car driver all along? The mysterious case of Jean Delays. Jean-Denis Delatraz walked into an F1 car and asked for a speed boost. The engineer said, "Sure, but it'll cost you 7 laps." This Swiss man had an F1 career that was as colourful as it was, shall we say, unique. Delatraz's grand entry into F1 was marked by his debut at the 1994 Australian Grand Prix. Before his F1 adventures, he had shown flashes of brilliance, with 2 commendable third places in the 1988 Formula 3000 season. However, it was the power of the purse rather than sheer pace that catapulted him into the pinnacle of motorsport. After all, in the high-stakes casino of F1, Delatraz played the role of the high roller, albeit with mixed results. His tenure in F1, while brief, was nothing short of theatrical. Delatraz's performances, particularly at the 1995 European Grand Prix where he crossed the finish line an impressive 7 laps down, became the stuff of legend. Such was the, impact of his driving that it played a part in inspiring the 107% qualifying rule, cheekily nicknamed by some as the Delatraz rule. Introduced in 1996, this rule was F1's polite way of saying, you need to be this fast to ride, presumably with a picture of Delatraz next to it as an example of what not to do. But let's not be too harsh. The man had some success outside the F1 circus, particularly in sports car racing where he seemed more at home. With 2 class wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans to his name, it's clear that Delatraz knew his way around a racetrack. It's just that the F1 tracks didn't seem to agree with him. Off the track, Delatraz ventured into team ownership, acquiring the first racing F3000 team, although this adventure had its own twists and turns, eventually leading to the team being impounded by an Italian court. As for his F1 swan song, it came to an abrupt end when his financing dried up, and Pacific team principal Keith Wiggins famously remarked, "On ability alone, we are not willing to keep him." Ouch! Talk about parting shots. From the dizzying highs of Le Mans to the less than stellar F1 outings, Delatraz's racing history is one of perseverance, financial juggling, and the harsh reality of motorsport at its pinnacle. And let's not forget, a rule named in his honour. Now that's something not many can claim. Chan, oh no, Nissani. Once upon a time in the land of Formula One, there was a racer named Chanok Nissani, whose tale is as unique as a snowflake in the Sahara. A successful real estate developer with a late-blooming passion for racing, Nissani began his motorsport journey at the ripe age of 38, fueled by a dream and, not to mention, a hefty wallet. His F1 saga began with a test for Jordan, where he lagged a mere 9 seconds behind Nick Heidfeld, a gap so vast it could comfortably accommodate a leisurely tea break. But it was with Minardi that Nissani found his unlikely home, impressing or bewildering team principal Paul Stoddart enough to bag a role as an official test driver for the 2005 season, despite performances that often left much to the imagination. Nissani's F1 debut, if you could call it that, came at the 2005 Hungarian Grand Prix practice session. He managed to turn heads, but perhaps not in the way he'd hoped, lapping 12.9 seconds slower than the pack. He spun out, eventually becoming a passenger in his own car as it was craned off the track. But it was the radio complaint of having too much grip that really cemented his place in F1 folklore. Yes, you heard that right, too much grip. It's a complaint that, to this day, might just be unique to Nissani in the annals of racing driver feedback. Post F1, Nissani continued to race, even clinching more titles in the Hungarian F2000 series, proving that his passion for racing transcended the need for conventional success. Today, he's passed the racing baton to his son, Roy Nissani, while also investing in the Ballerton Park circuit, further cementing his unique legacy in motorsport. In the Grand Prix of life, sometimes you're the sleek Mercedes gliding to victory, and sometimes you're just happy the car started. Thanks for taking this spin with us through F1's Hall of Fame, or should we say Hall of Frame, as in better frame that car before it spins again.